Hi everybody, my name's Caleb. Uh, Welcome to my channel. Um, so you can probably tell by the description on the video and the title what this is going to be about. Um, so I'm just going to get right into it. I fell down the alt-right rabbit hole. Um, my story, it actually starts in high school. Um, I was uh, I was a young idealistic kid, very interested in ideas. I'd spend a lot of time on YouTube. I'd spend a lot of time on the internet and reading things. And in high school, I went through all different sorts of ideologies and different ideas. Some, conspiracy theories here and there, some things that were real, different religions. And, you know, I was just a very interested and curious person. But one thing that was always true for me throughout high school and when I was younger was I was always much a very liberal person in the sense that any young person is. Um, I believed in protecting the environment. I believed in giving social justice to everyone. I believed in all the liberal values that a young person would, and I had a lot of empathy for people, and I wanted to help people in the world. When I was my senior year in high school, I wanted to go. I got accepted, but ended up not going to this program in India. It was like a sustainable agriculture type thing, and that was really interesting to me. And I pursued those things. And when I was in high school, I listened to bands like the Dead Kennedys and System of a Down and Muse and all these bands that had a revolutionary anti-authority, pushing back against oppression, lyrics to their songs, and I listened to the lyrics, and I was really in tune with that. But so fast forward to my graduation, and I go to college, and I really thought I was ready. I thought that this is it. It's time to, I come from a poor rural background, and I thought that I was going to get myself out of this situation, get an engineering degree, go, get into environmentalism, maybe solar panels or something, and I was going to change the world and accomplish all my dreams and get out of this small little town that I hated, and get away from my family, which I did not get along with, and get away from all these, it's funny looking back, conservative type of society that I felt was too regimented and wanted to control me. And I didn't see any value in it. But when I went to college, that's not what happened. And I got depressed. I went to this tiny little community college in West Virginia, and there weren't a lot of people like me there, or at least I never found them. And I got in with the wrong crowds, and I got depressed, I got lost, I was looking for the wrong kinds of validation, and I ended up flunking out. And as a result of flunking out, I lost my financial aid, and then it made it difficult for me to go back. And so I became very depressed upon returning home. Now I was back at home with my grandfather. I was living there. My friends had all left. I was alone. I didn't have a good relationship with my family, so I didn't have a relationship with any of them. I would stay in my room and I would just surf the web all day. And I went back to YouTube, something that was comforting for me when I was in high school, going through, these types of experiences, this type of frustration. But this time I went to YouTube for a purpose. And what I was looking for was a way to fix myself. You see, I knew there was something wrong with me in terms of my depression and my anxiety, and I knew that there was something that I can do about it. I've always been an introspective person. I've always wanted to work on myself, and so I started to go seeking this out. And I got into self-help. I got into neuroscience. I watched all these different types of videos, and to a large degree, some of that stuff helped me. You know, the self-help stuff was very cringy, but I was becoming a stronger person. I was becoming more adapted and more able to deal with my emotions and more able to deal with my situation and the pain that I was feeling. And, you know, eventually, as I was looking through all these videos, this little video, this YouTuber popped up in my sidebar. And, you know, it had an interesting, like, clickbaity title. And it was something about the truth about therapy, or it was something to do with depression and self-help and bettering yourself, and it looked interesting to me. I clicked on it, and it was this Canadian YouTuber, and I think you guys know where I'm going with this if you're familiar with these circles, but it was Stefan Molyneux, and Stefan resonated with me. Stefan resonated with me because Stefan had shared the same experiences that I had shared. Stefan, he had a traumatic childhood. He had issues with his mother. He had issues with the rest of his family. He had issues with the society around him. He was angry with the society around him that it never stepped in and did anything to help him, to help him escape from that childhood pain and that trauma that he carried with him. And these were all things that I felt, and it rang so true to me. And then he started talking about how he was able to get out of it, and and basically, like, he blamed a lot of his situation on liberalism and this sort of just the culture that we live in today, the culture that we enjoy. And I started listening to him more and more, and he was charming and intelligent, and he had a different message with content that had a different format that I was used to, and I wanted so hard to believe that this person who was like me was able to fix themselves and now talk about how much stronger they were and how much better they were, and that really, really got to me. So as I started to fall for his self-help stuff more and more, in my mind, I set him up as an authority figure. I put him up on a pedestal. And then as I watched more of his content, for the first couple months, it was just self-help stuff. But then I started to notice that he had all these other videos about politics and social commentary. And, he would talk about, like, the relationships between men and women. And he would talk about, the state. Anyone that's familiar with libertarianism will know, the ways in which they talk about the state. And he would talk about all these things. And behind it, he always had the veneer of, like, he was a Renaissance man. Like, he was a philosopher. He calls himself a philosopher that is bringing the objective truth to the world. And his philosophy was called objectivism. And, I was young and naive, and quite honestly, kind of dumb. I was uneducated. And when he would feed me this information about history and about, what he saw as scientific facts and his theories and his social commentaries, because of the benefits that I'd gotten from him and the pain that he had relieved from me, I assumed he was honest, or at least, at the very least, I assumed that he was correct. And slowly over time, I started to adapt a lot of those ideas that he had about society and about politics. And this was dragging me to the right. And on top of that, he had guests on his show. And so when he would bring a guest on, they would have their own little pet issue that they would want to talk about. Islam, feminism, all types of things. And I thought, well, Steph's vetted these people, and he talks so positively with them in the video, and he agrees with them, and so I would set them up as an authority figure. And then I would start I would go to their YouTube channel and I would start consuming their content. And slowly over time, like I said, I was moving further and further to the right. And I noticed like I was starting to become more conservative. As I went down the rabbit hole, now mind you, Steph's ideas, this was 2014. When I found him, his ideas were a lot more mild. And so I got introduced to people like Crowder and Shapiro. And once I started listening to them, I started believing into a lot of the conservative principles. And then from there, I got introduced to people like Lauren Southern and Gavin McInnes, and then finally, by the end of it, I'm listening to Jared Taylor talk about racial differences, and it all had this sense that it was all connected, and they had clear out groups on who the enemy was and who was reliable. The left, the liberals, the communists. There was always this conspiracy at the gates that the left is trying to take us down. And it seems so plausible because the left does seem to have a domination on things like Hollywood and a lot of the culture. And so these conservatives, they would play it up like they were victims, like their free speech was being taken and their values were being destroyed. And I bought into that rhetoric. And it happened so fast. I started out as a libertarian, mind you, when I watched Stefan's content. Before that, I was a liberal. But then, as I listened to Stefan, I picked up libertarian ideas, which transitioned into, anarcho-capitalist ideas. But what would happen was I would get to a point where, I wanted the libertarianism because I wanted a free society, but then I realized that, well, we can't have a free society if there isn't social cohesion and there isn't a strong structure to bind us together. And so I slowly found myself turning into a conservative. And the way I like to think of this, it's, I have a slight background in marketing. I like to think of it like a sales funnel. And what a sales funnel does is it takes customers, potential customers, in a broad general sense, and tries to funnel them down to a point where they buy a product. And the funnel acts in two ways. It educates and motivates the buyers that will buy, and it expels the potential customers that won't buy. And this is kind of what this ideology did. And so I started out as a libertarian, and then because I thought that we needed social cohesion, I became a conservative. And then from there, I thought that the conservatives weren't going far enough. We called them cucks. And I started to believe that we needed strong borders and we needed a national identity and we needed to raise the birth rates. And to me, it wasn't necessarily white birth rates. I saw it more as like we needed more intelligent people having children. And then as I started to learn more, as I listened to people like, Jared Taylor or, Molyneux started putting out a lot more race content, talking about race and IQ, talking about the bell curve. And, they use this term called race realism. And the idea is that there's differences in the races depending on where they evolved in the world, and that, these are inexplicable. These are, or they're immutable. They're tied to biology, and that we can't escape them necessarily. And so I bought into that. And because of that, I started to see society as a product of this, the combination between culture and race being so important because it's tied to IQ. And so I saw Western civilization as like this traditional values plus a high IQ and a strong sense of self. And so I bought more and more into it. I went further down the funnel. And at the point where I landed, I wouldn't call it full alt-right personally because of a few beliefs that I didn't have. For example, full alt-righters, they believe in the Jewish conspiracy, that they rule the world. I didn't believe that. But So I would consider myself alt-lite. And I would say at the bottom of that pyramid, that upside down, that funnel, would be fascism. And I didn't go that far, but I did entertain ideas, and especially during the Trump era, about a strong leader and a unified party. And, we had to expel the invaders, which I saw as like Muslims and Marxists. And we had to expel the traitors, which, once again, were like the communists and anybody that was promoting degeneracy within our culture. And, this is where you get the stupid fucking memes about helicopter rides, from the Pinochet dictatorship, where they threw communists out of helicopters. And I started to sympathize with these sorts of ideas. And, I just kept falling deeper and deeper into this. And it appealed to me because it made me feel a sense of belonging. It made me feel a sense of progressing forward, both progressing forward and preserving what we have. I was very much a supporter of hierarchies, and I saw hierarchies as genuine and justified. And all this stuff just took me down this primrose path to fucking perdition. But there was something about the race aspect and also other ideas that the alt-right had that made me very nervous. But I couldn't. You have to remember that I'm not a dumb person, but I didn't have the wherewithal, not the intelligence, but the education to combat these things. And so while I was becoming nervous of these ideas, I still believed them anyway. And I thought that it was just the uncomfortable truth that I just didn't want to accept. But if I was going to be honest, that I would have to accept it. And so around this time, coincidentally, that I began to become nervous more and more and more and more scared, and not even skeptical, but just afraid, I found a YouTuber named Destiny. Destiny is a Twitch streamer / YouTuber from Nebraska, Omaha. I think recently moved to LA. And he would go into these debates with alt-right figures. He gets a lot of shit for this, but he would go into debates with alt-right figures. And one of the alt-right figures that he went into a debate with was Lauren Southern. They had a debate on immigration. Now, immigration was a huge issue for me. I saw what had happened in Germany. I had, once again, these are all false premises that I had, but I saw what was happening in our country with illegal immigration, and I had this fear that if we let in too many people at once, that they would not assimilate, and that they would cause problems, and that society would fall apart. And Destiny debated Lauren Southern on immigration. And needless to say, he destroyed her. I mean, he mopped the floor with her. And Lauren Southern was someone that was well respected in her community. She was someone that had very close ties to even Stefan. And she just looked like a complete idiot. And not only that, but Destiny completely dunked on her and just embarrassed her. And I liked his style. I liked the way he did that. It was entertaining, and I bought into it. I don't even say I bought into it. It was impressive, but it was also terrifying. It was very terrifying because how could I be so wrong? How could I be so wrong? I mean, he pulled up all this data and statistics, and all Lauren had was appeals to emotions, and she would throw up stats, and then he would go through and explain why that's taken out of context and that's wrong, and she's not looking at the data correctly, and she's manipulating the data to spin a narrative. And I started to get privy to how these messages went across, and I listened to Destiny more and more. But during this time period, I was still skeptical to Destiny. There were things that while he had kind of stumped me on the immigration, there were other things that I was just not willing to go with him on. And race was one of those things. You know, the race realism is a strong pull. It's a strong. It seems so pragmatic and it seems so intuitive. I mean, you know, they bring up different dog breeds and they'll make all these different analogies and examples. And so it's such a strong idea for someone that's fallen into this. But as I watched Destiny more, I came across another YouTuber called ContraPoints. And Natalie, I mean, I had this aversion to her at first because I had all these goofy ideas about trans people. But Natalie, she spoke to me. She spoke my language. She was like one of me. We were about the same age, and she understood the culture that I was in. She understood the memes. She understood the philosophy. She understood the motivations, and she was able to repeat back to me why I found it so compelling. Whereas when I would talk to most leftists or liberals, they wouldn't know. They would just call me a racist. And to be honest with you, and this is part of the reason I'm making this video, is to help educate people, that didn't work. That pushed me further and further away. The only thing that made me believe was that I'm the red-pilled one, I'm the woke one, and that I'm the one that is willing to deal with these ideas where they're not. And they would just get emotional with me and fight with me, and I wasn't having any of it. So when I watched Contra's videos, she was very just rational and logical and had these good explanations, and I realized how fucking wrong I was, how fucking utterly stupid I was, and I was terrified, absolutely devastated, and I didn't know what to do. And I kept listening more and more and more. And she talked about more and more stuff. You know, she'd go in and she'd just explain everything so well. Well, that had completely sold me over. You know, that had got me out of it. And from there, you know, I think this happens naturally probably to a lot of people, but I became a progressive. I kind of came full circle. I started believing the things that I believed in high school again. But now I had reason to believe. I knew why I believed it. It wasn't just an emotion from here. It was an understanding from up here. And so it really opened my eyes. And it motivated me to want to make videos so that I can explain to both people on the left what these ideas are and how to combat them, but also to try to help other people that are going through it. Because maybe someone won't listen to Destiny, maybe they won't listen to Contra because they've not been through this, they've not tackled this, or I should say they've not internalized this. But maybe if they see someone that did and came out of it and realized how wrong it was and realized how it's full of logical fallacies and errors and conspiracy theories, and maybe they'll come out of it too. And so I had planned on making this YouTube channel. But to be quite honest with you, I wasn't going to put this channel out just yet. I had planned to do this in about a month or two. I'm moving out of this place now. I'm living in my hometown, the one I've been stuck in since 2011 when I graduated. And I'm moving out of here, and I'm moving to another state. Much better place, much more opportunity. And so, you know, when I get there, we're going to have another background. we're not going to have these doily curtains and the flowery wallpaper, and I think there's a couple cutesy animals up there. But anyway, what spurred me to put this video out now was over the weekend was the New Zealand shooting. And the reports came across when I was at work, and there's so many shootings nowadays that they hardly affect me anymore. You know, we have a school shooting, it seems like once a month almost, or there's some Islamic attack, or there's some, you know, white supremacists that send bombs in the mail, or, you know, we live in this sick, fucked up society. But this guy, when I researched him and when I watched the video, he was tuned in. I mean, reading his manifesto, he understood this ideology. He was deep in it, and he was repeating back to me all the things that I believed. And I watched that video, and he just murdered those fucking people. They didn't even put up a fight. He just slaughtered them. And then I saw the memes. He was memeing the whole time. And it made me realize that I had shared those same memes. Some of them I shared ironically, you know, because I thought they were ridiculous and I was shit posting, and some of them I saw as spreading my message. And I realized how this wasn't an isolated thing. This wasn't just something that I was going through, that I was influencing the world. And not just online with memes, but I would go out into the world and I would try to convince friends and family and girlfriends, and God, I almost lost every single friend I had. I had gay friends, black friends, trans friends, and while in my heart I felt like I didn't have anything personally against them, I understood why they got the fuck away from me, because they had to see it. And I realized the part that I played in it. And as small of a part as it was like a little crumb of this poisonous fucking cookie. And so I couldn't stay silent anymore. I knew that I had to put this out now. I had to put this out now because this is getting out of hand. It's going beyond just memes now. It's going beyond just internet philosophy. It's philosophy. It's going beyond just the exploration of ideas. It's affecting the real world. And you see the way now, like countries like Poland are becoming ultra nationalist and calling for Islamic genocide. And so I couldn't wait any longer. And as I said earlier, I want to help other people out of this, because this is a dangerous fucking cult. It's a decentralized cult that sucks you in. There's no formal leadership. There's no one giving marching orders, but it's an encompassing philosophy, and so many different people down the layers of this, you know, because this isn't just a simple philosophy. Lots of people want to make things just simple and say, oh, the alt-right, they believe this. But no, like, there's so many other overlapping categories that share these beliefs. And that's another thing I want to help people understand, is how you can listen to Ben Shapiro and hear him talk about how Israel's settlements are justified because Arabs like to live in raw sewage, and how we need to fight back against Islam, and Steven Crowder will talk about feminism, or you know, whatever, all these idiots. And they spread this message, and you'll take one piece of that, and that will take you to the next step, into the next step, into the next step. And this is how you become radicalized. You don't become radicalized because some Nazi walks up to you and Zeke Hiles and says, hello, would you like to preserve the white race? It doesn't work that way. They convince you through a pseudo-rationality, and they prey upon your biases. They prey upon your circumstances. They prey upon who you are. They prey upon, look at me, they prey upon your very identity. and they use that against you. And whether they do that intentionally or they do that because they truly believe it, it doesn't matter. It happens either way. And so I don't want it to happen anymore. I don't want it to happen to anyone else. And I have friends that are in this. You know, I would hear my friends start to repeat things like cultural Marxism and Western civilization, you know, things that you hear Jordan Peterson talk about. Someone who's a self-prescribed liberal, or someone like Dave Rubin. And it's just, I can't put up with it anymore. So I had to speak out and I had to tell my story. You know, there's something that I do want to say. The scariest part of all this was I never saw myself as a bad person or an evil person. I never hated anyone. And that might be hard for people listening to this to believe. And I understand. And maybe you don't believe me, and that's fine. Maybe you think I'm covering up for racists, and that's fine. I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm not here to just demonize people that we're enemies with. I'm not here to just demonize the alt-right and not explain things. I'm here to tell you what I went through as honestly as I can. And, you know, I didn't hate anyone. You know, one of my best friends through all this is black. And he's had encounters with police and with all these things. And I remember sitting and listening to him and I wouldn't believe him. And it's because I bought into this so hard. And so I didn't hate anyone. I thought that I had discovered a truth. You know, that's what the concept of a red pill is. I thought that I had discovered an uncomfortable truth, that I had waken up from the matrix, and that if everyone woke up, that we could build a society that would be great for everyone. And part of that, if it meant that you couldn't come to our country, then so be it. If it meant that I had to ostracize you because of your beliefs, because of your lifestyle, say you were gay and you wanted to get married and have kids, I would ostracize you for that. On the simple fact that I thought that it would lead to the decay of society and the total breakdown. So this whole thing had an inner logic to it. It was pragmatic. But not only was it pragmatic, but it appealed to the romantic inside of me. It appealed to my desire to want to be strong and powerful, to have my own identity, and to make my own way in life, and to not live like I had lived forever, following other people, as ironic as that is, and being controlled, you know, by my family, by my society, whatever. And so to have that sense of stability and belonging, I did the most paradoxical thing you can. I gave myself up to others. And I became the follower. And I was brainwashed. And so that's what I'm here on this channel to do. There's other things that I want to talk about on the channel as well. Politics, current events maybe, maybe philosophical ideas. You know, I'd love to have guests on the show. I'd love to do live streams. I'm also a gamer. Probably one of the demographics that pulled me into this. Most of the people I know that are in this, they're gamers. They play first-person shooters, and we're part of that edgy meme culture, you know, that goes back so long. It goes back, for me at least, to 2008 on 4chan. Back when it wasn't so racist and obvious and taken over by these people, but it was like shit-posting fun that teenagers do. And so I'm just here to help pull my people out of that. But also, I'll probably put out some content about gaming. And maybe I'll do some live streaming on Twitch or something. So if you guys see content like that too, don't be surprised. But if you're here for my journey, if you're here to understand what I went through, what my thought processes were during all this time, I'm going to be doing a lot of in-depth video on that. Video essays, monologues, all kinds of stuff. And so I'm really glad that you guys found this. And I hope that you can share this and and that it can help someone, and it can help you understand so that you know how to better combat this, and you know how to help other people that you might know that are going through this. And this isn't easy for me to say, but I think that empathy is an important tool here. It's something we have to consider, because I believe people can change. Obviously, I did. And I was deep in these beliefs, and I was fucking stubborn. I'm a very stubborn person. And so I believe people can change, and I think the only way we can do that is to understand them and to give them a place where they belong, because at the end of the day, that's what people want. They want belonging, they want stability, they want the same things that everybody else wants, except they've been told and taught that to get that, they have to follow these fascistic, evil fucking ideologies that are based in pseudoscientific nonsense from the fucking Nazis. And so, yeah, I hope you guys join me on this journey. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon. If there's anything that you think that you disagreed with me on, you didn't understand, or a critique that you'd like to leave, just leave it in the comments or contact me through email or social media. I have a long way to go still. I'm in this state now where, for 5 years, from 2014 up to about 6 months ago, very recently, I believed this stuff wholeheartedly, and more radical towards the end of that within the last year or two of believing it. So there's a lot that I've rejected these ideas. There's a lot that I don't understand, and I want to learn. So if there's anything you guys can teach me, if there's anything I can teach you, let's correspond. Let's get together, and let's figure this thing out, because it's a problem I believe that we can figure out. And so, yeah, thank you again for watching. This wasn't easy for me to make, and I really hope that I haven't upset anyone or offended anyone or anything like that. That's not my intention. My intention is to come here and to be as honest as possible, and to just tell you what I went through and what I believed, as wrong as it was. And maybe my theories on why it happened to me, why I believed it, are wrong still, but I'm just going to tell you what I thought, what I believed, what I experienced. And hopefully that's enough. And hopefully you guys find some value in that. So thank you for watching, and stay safe out there, guys. Keep up the fight, and let's not give up, because there's people out there that are scared and they don't want to believe this, but they are so convinced that they can't believe anything else. So let's reach those people. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. Have a great day. Bye.